Good morning to those of you who celebrate. It's I Stand Correct podcast, I guess. I don't know what else you would call it. Various people call it various things. Good morning to everybody in the chats. Felony, Melanie. How was everyone's No Kings Day? We'll get to that very briefly. I'm not going to get into huge details on it. I just made the title of the episode overtly political so that my sister wouldn't join. She annoyed me the other night. Yeah, I don't. By the way, Michael Hendricks, if we have no kings, are we supposed to address Drew? I don't like the whole everyone calling each other king and queen. I think that's really lame. From my time when you called someone a queen, that was a put down. And most of the time it's because you were calling a man that. Damn it, she's here. I almost didn't. Well, you're going to regret being here. Don't you? Why are you here? You're going to regret it. Chase, just go now. Why stay and get mad? You're gonna get mad in 10 minutes and leave, and you're gonna be like, he ruined my day. Mediocre morning, everyone. Anthony here. Anthony likes me for me. Anthony likes me for me, not because I like or I know Eric Tansey or I do a podcast with Drew Breezy. It's like that song. Do you guys remember that song from the 90s? I'm not going to sing. Jonathan is so happy to be seeing people like him for him, not because he's associated with others. If only that were true. I said this during a hard time on Friday that I'm trying to be my own man with this show. Trying to get out from under the shadow of all the people who have helped me over the years. The truth is that if I had never gotten a leg up or put in front of you guys, Felony Melanie, Chase, Shorty Rides, I don't think I would have anybody. So, although I'm trying to get, I'm trying to see what I can develop organically, like have some random person who's never heard of Failure to Stop come across me and see if they like what I have. I get that genuine validation. Why else wake up in the morning? So just to chase my sister away, they had all those protests, and there's a lot of trolling from the right onto the left about it. JD Vance posted something on Instagram. It's if you look at the thumbnail for this episode, it's a video of Trump putting on a crown and kind of putting on one of these king cloaks. What do they call those furry cape things? Probably a cape. And he takes out a sword like Excalibur, and and then everyone comes in and kneels in front of him, and all the people commenting on it like, this is horrible. This is grounds for treason, which is like, it's AI. Like, calm down. And everybody's just like, if you're not paying attention, we're all gonna lose everything and all this. And I'm like, first of all, it's not all AI, because this video of Nancy Pelosi kneeling is just her in 2020. I remember her like crazy little scarf thing that she's wearing. So it's really, that's just a video of her kneeling. And I thought kneeling was what they all love to do. Didn't they love doing that? They loved it. Yeah, they did. And so we have a sense of humor about their silly little no kings thing. And it is silly to us because the president was elected by the people. He won 7 out of 7 swing states. So even like all those people that, could have changed the outcome, the states that really matter, they all voted for him. We all knew what the platform was. We all knew that it was going to be evicting illegal immigrants. We all knew that it was going to be dealing with foreign matters differently, and pretty much everything that he did, at least in his first 100 days. Doge and all that stuff. You guys remember Doge? You remember the good old days? Anyway, we voted for all of that. And although, I've been rather black-pilled on the administration lately, you can't say that it was some kind of autocratic thing. But suppose you wanted to say that, because I'm nothing if not a devil's advocate. Suppose you're worried that executive powers run amok, that it's not getting properly checked. Well, first of all, just as an aside, you could blame your own Congress for that, because they're supposed to check president's power. But I would understand. The president, it used to be historically, it used to be a very weak office. You know, people kind of dog on Buchanan and Pierce and Fillmore and some of these other guys for not doing anything as the country was falling apart, falling down into civil war, the nullification crisis, and all this, where states independently could declare federal law unconstitutional and then not enforce it. Well, those presidents didn't do anything because they didn't feel like it was their job. It wasn't that they were lazy. In Buchanan's case, it was because he was a bad president. Pierce's case is because he was depressed because his son was dead. Fillmore, maybe it was Fillmore's fault, but they didn't view it as the president's job to wield supreme executive authority to force everyone to get along. They didn't feel like they were driving the car of the country and they should pull it over and spank everybody who's fighting. They didn't view it as his job. Since Lincoln, who wielded executive authority to the point where he's suspending habeas corpus, doing all this, exerted the force necessary to keep the country together. And since then, the president's been sort of a runaway executive power. And it's been frustrating because it's like you can't plan anything in this country anymore because it all depends on who's going to be the president in the next 4 years. But we should really have a country with more stability than that. It shouldn't depend so heavily on one thing. I mean, that's the historical, sociopolitical perspective on that. But suppose you really don't like supreme executive power reaching down into your life and telling you how to live. That's what they're afraid of when they say no King's Day. They don't want President Trump going outside of the boundary of the Constitution, which is supposed to restrain him, and forcing people to do things they don't want to do. However, that view is very hypocritical because in 2020, that's essentially what they wanted for all of us. If you don't wear a mask, you get thrown out of the library. If you go to the beach by yourself, you will be arrested, and so on and so forth. And tens of thousands of incidents in that year of people just trying to live their own lives independent of government overreach, and their individual freedoms were severely curtailed, much to the applause of all these people who are now at the No Kings protests. So they didn't want a big government reaching down into their lives and controlling them like a king. And yet that's exactly what they got in 2020. And they said, "Govern me harder, daddy." So I don't know why you're upset about a king when what you really want is a big government to take care of you and do everything for you and tell you what to do every single moment from the day you were born until the day you die. They want a king. They just want their king. And to add another layer of preposterousness to all of their protests, their last president acted with a lot of, out of bounds authority. I'm talking, of course, about Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or the White House chief of staff, whoever it was who really was not elected at all to do anything. But they're moving the pen around for Joe Biden, who, of course, was pooping his pants and getting lost inside a bathroom. Let's not kid ourselves into believing that guy had any kind of wherewithal to make any kind of executive decision. He wasn't qualified to drive a bus. He wasn't qualified to withstand a lawsuit. He got adjudicated mentally incompetent to defend himself in a civil suit. And we still didn't 25th Amendment him. So if he's mentally incompetent to even represent himself in a civil suit, in what sense is he the president? But somebody was. Somebody was the president. Somebody didn't get elected. Sounds like a king to me. Queen Jill Biden, King Hunter Biden, whatever it was. But to add another layer of preposterousness to it, they put forward another candidate in the election when it was realized that Joe Biden was sundowning around 11 a.m. They didn't have a primary. They didn't give the people who like to vote progressive or Democratic Party, they didn't give them a choice at all. So without a choice, the person that was put on your ballot got chosen for you. You didn't ever get to choose who was on the ballot. It was just Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. So, that was your queen, Kamala Harris, that just got chosen for you. But to add another layer of preposterousness to it, when was the last time they had a legitimate primary? Are you kidding me? You going to say it was Hillary Clinton? Well, we know that Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, basically torpedoed Bernie Sanders, calling him several racial slurs about him being Jewish in an email. These emails got leaked, calling him the K word, which is an ugly word. And yet, even after that happened, Debbie Wasserman Schultz was still refereeing a presidential debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. You wonder why Jay Jones is getting away with saying it's okay that he wishes that his opponent's enemies or his enemies' children were dead. It's because Debbie Wasserman Schultz can call Bernie Sanders the K word, and she still ends up being a a host for a presidential debate. There's no there's no boundaries there on what they're allowed to say and get away with. They just know they just have to hang on, and the news cycle washes it out. So we all know that Hillary also thought that she was ascendant in 2008, right after Bush. She felt like she was a shoo-in. But they gave it to Barack. At least that was a legitimate primary because the people clearly do not want Hillary Clinton. They did want Barack Obama. So that was a legitimate primary. So it's been a long, long time since their parties had a legitimate primary election, and the last president that they had wielding executive power did so with someone else's hand up his ass, like a puppet. So that's all I have to say about that. And then they go out there. Oh, just that it's hilarious that they keep having no King's Days over and over again. This is just something to give them something to do to feel busy on a Saturday, something important. And the Trumpers love it because they go out there and drive around with their flags and everything. It gives the Trumpers something to do too. I honestly, if it wasn't being funded by billionaire George Soros, I would love it. If it wasn't just a completely made up event for them by this billionaire trying to determine the outcome of the world, George Soros. But some of these people never get exercise, so it's good for them that they're out. Let's do some memes. What do you guys say? Oh, coming in hot with the political stuff. Boston has been defying kings since we threw tea into the harbor in 1773. Well, they were pretending to be Indians, just like you, Senator. Elizabeth Warren can never live that down. I also love that Donald Trump calls her Pocahontas right during the State of the Union speech. Some of you will say, well, that's horrible. It's crass. It's not statesmanlike. It's not dignified. I think you guys don't remember that this country was built on some rather undignified things. Our national anthem is a British drinking song. Okay. We are rowdy and we talk shit in this country. And it has always been the case. Just look back at how Jackson and Henry Clay used to get along. I think Andrew Jackson's dying words were like, you have any regrets? And he's just like, I hate Henry Clay and I hate that son of a bitch, John Calhoun, who is his own vice president. Like, he talks some shit. They used to have fights on the floors of Congress, all out brawls, battle royales, Hunger Game shit. And Jackson, somebody besmirched his wife in a newspaper and he's challenged him to a duel, and that guy showed up and got shot. So if you think that Trump is out of line or he's redefining this country as something less than civilized, again, you just don't know your history. And it's not surprising because a lot of people who don't understand history or know about it get upset about what's going on now. But anyway, she attempted to exploit various systems for her benefit. Oh, Cupcakes is here. I honestly think J.D. Vance does an even better job at trolling than Trump. He's a lot wittier. He is, but he also has a lot more free time. Dude, I love J.D. Vance. He's the ultimate troll, and I'm here for it. Yeah, when they're trying to make him feel bad about taking out cartel boats, he goes, I don't really care if it's a war crime, Yeah. Jackson had no chill. He really didn't. And I love Andrew Jackson. And you know what's funny about Andrew Jackson is Democrats hate him, but he was a Democrat. They hate him. Do you know why? And Jackson really wasn't so bad. He wasn't a Democrat like the Democrats are today. But Jackson had the Trail of Tears, which is bad. But he had some good ideas, like opposing a national bank. But what you get from the people who don't understand history is that Democrats were the party of slavery. They were really opposed to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That was written by Republicans and passed by Lyndon Johnson, who could see that. Well, I don't know if you guys know the quote by Lyndon Johnson, but he said, if black people are going to vote, they're going to vote Democrat, he said. He wasn't happy about it, but he tried to make the best out of a bad situation, in his opinion. But they, whenever Democrats, the reason why they're always trying to tear down their own history, statues of Robert E. Lee and the like, tearing down statues of prominent Democrats, it's because they cannot deal with the cognitive dissonance that comes with how in every generation they're on the wrong side of history and they have the worst takes consistently. So they have to say, oh, well, there was a great switch, like, oh, after whichever president they like, who's that, there was some kind of switch where Republicans became Democrats and Democrats became Republicans. Nah, you just don't want to be, you don't want to be remembered as the party of slavery, right? But anyone who's had a crazy mom will tell you that you can't be gaslit, and you can hold them accountable for that. You can say Democrat Party, the party of slavery, if you want. I would like that to kind of like be like a subtitle for them. Democrat Party, like the party of slavery, just as a reminder. And if you think, well, that definitely can't be so, they're out there now advocating for a perpetual underclass. They want illegal immigrants in this country to be here and working and not subject to labor laws. They don't want them to be paid fairly. And when the prospect of deporting them comes up, they're like, but who will pick our blueberries? Who will pick our cotton? Remember that time Soros helped the Nazis find hidden Jews during World War II? I don't, but that sounds like a totally George Soros thing to do. Remember when the Easter Bunny had to guide Dementia Joe during the Easter thing? Drew, Michael, in fairness, there was a Marine inside that bunny costume. I simply asked the No King crowd, what do you have as a passport if you believe there are no borders? Yeah. Well, that they actually want other countries to have a border. They just don't want this one to have a border. Hillary won 14 coin tosses in a row. A lot of people lose to Hillary. Vince Foster, JFK Jr. I could go on. Tyler's here. That's good to see Tyler. Yes. We're going to live in some sort of denial here. John is excellent, as is Drew. I wouldn't admit to knowing Eric. I don't know. What do we say about that? God's honest truth. I favor this podcast over the COD Center. Why? Is it because you don't? Oh, this is a joke. Don't overreact. Is it because you don't have to work for this one? They serve different purposes, but this is intelligent and funny. You discovered yourself. The last time I discovered myself, it was to my great shame. Save some technical fundamentals. I discovered myself, save some technical fundamentals. What's wrong with my technical fundamentals? Because I don't always time I don't know. Anyway, so with all that said and done, my sister is probably gone, right? I told her that she would be unhappy to be here. And pretty sure she's gone. I could go. Love you. She took the high road. And that's good because I'm never going to change her mind. I'm only ever going to piss her off. I don't have to work for the comm center. I don't have to work for you have to work for the comm center. That's obviously a detractor. That's why you have maybe a little bit of bitterness towards the comm center. Here, you just show up, and Drew does so much work on the comm center. What's funny is that I recently came back to Facebook, and I noticed that Drew's constantly doing stuff on Facebook too. It's like a whole aspect of this whole enterprise that I had just ignored for 2 years. He's always busy doing something. Always something dropping. Always working. Who were cleaner, outhouses and stables? But what did you guys think of that political diatribe? Was that okay? Did that get you kind of juiced up? Do you feel like somebody is speaking for you or understands your language, or do you feel like there's anything left on the table there? Because we're going to keep going with that. Just one more. I'm not going to turn your whole day political. I would argue that COVID does kill some of the right people. The anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers are dying in legions. And one person reacted, whoa, wow to that. This is to Julie Powell. So why were we surprised when Charlie Kirk got murdered and all these people were happy about it? We were surprised about it. And the reason why we were surprised about it is because we forgave and forgot their horrible behavior from 2020. We did, because there were people like Julie Powell out there saying that luckily COVID's killing all the people who are not wearing masks and not getting the vaccinations. In other words, she was saying COVID was killing all the people who refused to bend the knee to the mandates, the vaccine mandates for their job, for the mask mandates for airplanes and libraries and beaches and for their own cars. And she was saying that COVID is killing them and that is right. And I think if we all just go back and remember, whether it's a person we know or a meme that we saw or Arnold Schwarzenegger going out there saying, fuck your freedoms, get a vaccine. I think we know that there's a streak of meanness on that side of the discussion, that there's that they really don't have any chill, that there's not and not all of them. Let's not paint with too broad a brush. But they really are okay with conservatives dying. Case in point, Julie Powell. She is a Julie and Julia food writer. And she was writing back in the day that COVID's killing the right people. And I'm sure she would have been pleased by Charlie Kirk getting murdered. However, she died of cardiac arrest at age 49. And I shouldn't, the conservative Guido here is making fun of it or making light of it. She opened the door for that, though. She said it was okay that other people were dying. So turnabout's fair play. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Is it okay that Julie Powell died, possibly of myocardial arrhythmia or some kind of myocarditis, possibly brought on by a side effect of the vaccine? Something my sister would never tell you is, or other people that I know who got the vaccine, is that they suffered injuries because of it, and they're so afraid to speak out because they were the ones who were championing it. They're the ones saying that they should take it. And they got injured, and they won't say anything about it. So they bear these injuries in silence because they know that they're not going to get any support from the left. Right? They don't want to be seen as an apostate to that cause. And they're not going to get any support from our side either because they're going to get an I told you so from us. So I'll show more compassion maybe than Julie Powell would say. But that there are people out there who got vaccines and they got vaccine injuries, all to enrich Pfizer and everyone else who profited from that. And their lives are damaged and ruined. And I mean, Julie Powell is dead. If her cause of death was indeed something related to the vaccine. 49 is very early to die. But they suffered and died. And they did it, and they did it for their cause, and they now they suffer in silence. But it goes maybe it has to get said too, is that those of us who did not give in to fear in 2020 and realized that we were not being told the truth about what was going on, and those of us who just generally don't live in fear anyway, we either behaved, you could say, courageously in the face of pressure, or just we were baseline true to what we are, but we didn't give into that fear, and we didn't do something that was a bad idea, and we didn't we didn't do something because someone told us to. My departed sister said that she expressed some fears about martial law being declared at some point. I didn't respond to that, but martial law can only affect people who are already afraid and who are willing to do whatever the government says. If Donald Trump went out there tomorrow and said, I declare martial law, I'm in charge of everything now, I wouldn't care. It wouldn't affect me. And when it came down to the curtailing of my constitutional rights, I'm not going to just take that. I didn't take it in 2020 when my rights were being curtailed. When my job told me, first, my part-time job offered me $1,000 to take the vaccine, and a lot of people went with that. And I said, that's just the carrot. Wait for the stick. Then the stick came and they said, if you don't get the vaccine, we have to fire you. And it was about compliance with the money they took from the federal government as a nonprofit. And I didn't make a big stink out of it. I didn't walk in there with the American flag or impale a guy like in the movie The Patriot with the flag. Great movie. But I put in my notice. I'm like, and I didn't even say why. I just said it's been great working with you guys for 9 years, and I've really bonded with a lot of people here, and I enjoyed it. And thanks for all the flexibility and bearing with me, when I've got to make changes and things like that. It's been great working here. Have a good life, everybody. I didn't make a big showdown about it. And they reached out to me and said, well, just put down whatever your thoughts are on paper. And I said, well, I don't qualify for an exemption because of the following 18 reasons. Never ask me a question about what I think because you're going to hear it. And they said, yeah, we loved it. We're going to give you an exemption. I'm like, the first paragraph says I don't qualify for an exemption. They just wanted to paper whip the problem, but they scared a bunch of people into thinking they were going to lose their jobs. And this was all to comply with federal money and federal power and very kingly behavior. It was all about maintaining that accreditation and all this. And those of us who did not give into fear and we maintained some level-headedness and some courageousness all these years later, have that to show for ourselves. And I feel a little proud of myself, that I wasn't afraid. But that just tells you you don't have to be afraid for the future either, because even if Donald Trump starts acting rather kingly, you've been through this before. That was nothing if not a big testing round to see what they could get away with and what people would stand up to. And unfortunately, people tend to stand up to petty things, stand up to petty tyranny, but they'll lay down for big tyranny. So who knows what the future will hold, but I don't think that'll come at the hands of Donald Trump. I think that'll come at the hands of the party that demanded I put a foreign substance into my body or lose my job. That was rather kingly behavior. But that's neither here nor there. I think that was enough political stuff, right? I had something else I really wanted to say, but I won't remember till the show's over. That's how it always goes. All right, so let's go on to the memes. I have so many, by the way, this week that I literally had to delete some memes and bring in better memes. This is like the first truly curated meme show. We're going to keep it going quick here because it's already been half an hour. Officer acts rude on the radio. Dispatch acts rude back. The officers are like, what? Pika? Yeah, you didn't know that was rude? They're always surprised when I don't kiss their badge or when I'm not impressed by their little uniform, their little costume, because so many people are. They look in the mirror and they're impressed with themselves, but I just see them as just some fucking guy. I know the stupid shit that they're doing, the stupid stuff. Crazy how kids today will never know how fun it was to go outside every single day with your friends and sit here. Yes, out at the old electrical box, jumping off of that thing, and they painted it green so it would kind of fade into the landscape. But we were out there just jumping and sitting on it. We didn't have cell phones. Some of us didn't have bikes, and those of us who didn't were here, just sitting, just playing, baking in the heat, sitting in the shade, and it was a gathering spot. Why are you so poor and primitive? Well, it's going to be your fault. 400 years from now, it will be your fault, Columbus. Yada, yada, yada. Columbus, they say. Why do people not like Subway? Because people are retarded and they think they are better than what they truly are. Subway is not bad. It is cheap and convenient. Usually get the turkey bacon avocado foot long on honey wheat bread. Here's the thing. This meme is not aged well. It's not cheap and it's not really good anymore. But what I would say is that, a lot of people don't know how good we had it. There was a time when Subway was truly delicious. It was outpacing McDonald's there for a while in franchise locations. We could eat fresh. And then, the whole Jared thing, which is kind of not recoverable. Woman pointing at a gun at a computer for some reason, 1998. I could just hear the modem sounds. By the way, for some reason, this completely captures the zeitgeist of 1998. You have someone who basically looks like Agent Scully pointing what is either an AR-15 or an M16 right at the disk drive of a computer. And I like it when those keyboards came out, the ergonomic keyboards. We were first starting to learn about ergonomics, and we would have the weird ergonomic chair that you lean forward in. It had a front rest rather than a back rest. You guys remember that? Anyway, this is 1998 pretty much summed up. I like those bears fighting in the photo back in the background. Hello, Alexander. I hope your evening has been most enjoyable. Would you care to receive some artful photographs of my nude form? Why do you sext like Jigsaw? Would you like to play a game? And unfortunately for Tamagotchi MILF, this is the most humiliating day of her life. I don't know. I would see if someone spoke to me that way, that would work. I enjoy a well put together sentence. Probably the meme I should have led off with. Podcasts are like babies, too easy to create, and not everyone should have one. Anybody here in the chats have a podcast? I know Talia used to have one. Drew has one. Do not mix bleach and ammonia. That makes chloramine gas. Yeah, I know the smell of that, Mom. Do not mix bleach and vinegar. That makes chlorine gas. That's bad for you. That's lethal. Bleach and rubbing alcohol. That makes chloroform. Don't mix that. Hydrogen peroxide vinegar. Peracetic acid. It's just amazing how many common clears you mix them together and all of a sudden you're in real trouble. Did you just teach us how to make chloroform? Fun fact about chloroform. You chloroform somebody when they wake up, they always throw up. It's never that way in the movies. You can't go home sick because you're sick of your coworkers. That isn't fair. Only 1 in 4 men are happy. First guy's arguing with his girlfriend. Second guy's arguing with his wife. Third guy's not even on speaking terms with his. But down there at the bottom, they're getting along great. The little boy says, I pledge my soul and my life for you, Saddam Hussein. How do you find that in a child's size? If I wore that to work, would I get into trouble? You just have to wonder. I don't have a dress code, but I think they might. There's probably a boundary there somewhere. How to lose a girl in a week. Just genuinely care. Text her first. Be respectful and check up on her. Women hate that. They say that you're not respecting their space when you do that. Baby girl, I can get melancholic and sentimental over things you cannot even imagine. You have no idea. As I'm driving through the countryside, particularly this time of year, everything's sepia toned and gray under the sky. I'm sad about everything, man. And yet, I'm never happy unless I'm sad. A few rounds into strip poker, and it's becoming increasingly clear that I am wearing a bomb vest. Yeah, you always got to dress for the occasion. Sometimes I try to sync our dreams so I can terrorize you in different dimensions. One day I'll get you. If a girl ever wanted to reach out to my heart, that is exactly how she would talk to me. Where are these chats at? Why are we no longer Facebook friends, John? Did you just check? Don't check stuff. I hired illegals to do our social media. To answer your question, I don't feel bad about this. You still have my phone number. You never call or text. Um, as a condition for me coming back to Facebook, I had to eliminate 100 Facebook friends. In fact, I never accept a Facebook friend request without blocking 2 others. It's not personal. It's hard choices have to be made. Um, you know, I'm still your friend in real life. People always, and this is part of the reason why I left Facebook. Not to take this too seriously, but it's this exact thing right here. Why are we no longer Facebook friends? Did you think that, and not you, Felony, but like to person who's upset that I was no longer their Facebook friend? And I literally just eliminated 100 the other day. Did you think this was like a literal contract? Like this is our treaty? Like we are friends now because we're Facebook friends? It's too much pressure for me. I realized that there was 2 things going wrong with my Facebook. Number 1, I was only seeing stuff in my feed from groups that I'm not a part of and ads. And I realized that they brought an Instagram style algorithm to Facebook that I wasn't enjoying. So that's why I went to Instagram. I have to retrain my algorithm. I realized that most of the people on Facebook I don't really care about. That's not including you, Felony. You probably just, I started just cutting everybody. And so it's like, why am I going to open up Facebook to find out, what some cop that I worked with 8 years ago is doing with his kid this weekend? Sadly, most of the people on my Facebook probably wouldn't even buy me a beer. And if I saw them out in public, they would pretend not to know me. So I'm trying to make my Facebook show me the things from the people who I actually know in real life, Felony. And I haven't met you in real life. And if you meet me in real life, you can re-add me as a friend. I didn't block you. I did block many people. All right, let's keep going. Mike and I both went to high school with a martial law. If Drew doesn't make that joke, he actually gets censored. My wife and I were quite concerned for a few weeks when COVID swept through the prison in Ohio, and we looked at the stats and realized that what the government was saying was bullshit. Yeah. A lot of it was. We were not being told the truth, and the government, even small government, took it as an opportunity to kind of seize power because they wanted to look like they were being proactive. They said, well, this is a national emergency, and it's an emergency in small town USA, and I'm going to close the event center. I'm going to cancel the parade, and the park's also closed. And this made them liken themselves to the great thoughtful protectors of society that they saw elsewhere, that were their idols. But, was really out of their purview to do. Whether it was a good idea or a bad idea is not even relevant. The point is that they didn't have the authority. Do you think somebody who's a city manager has the authority to close a park? They don't. They may think they have the authority to close a park or to close a library, but they actually don't have that authority because those are taxpayer funded things and the taxpayers want it open. And if taxpayers don't want to go because taxpayers are worried about getting COVID, then taxpayers can stay home. But those who want to go and assume risk, they get to go. Someone said something interesting to me once, and I think this is something that just really, really stuck. And this was about dealing with taking care of guys with intellectual disabilities, which was my job that I quit, but then they didn't let me quit. Something you've got to understand that when you're taking care of guys with intellectual disabilities is that the greatest dignity that a person has is to assume risk for themselves. We had a lot of guys taking care of these guys with intellectual disabilities, and they would see them making judgment values about what their decisions were. Is this risky behavior? Well, it's not illegal. It's not grossly dangerous, like running out into traffic. It's just risky. And they would sort of assert themselves in that situation saying, no, don't do that. Well, they were out of bounds on that because it's not our job to be their parents. We can look after them and keep them from being exploited. We can keep them from gross danger. We can keep them some cases from violating the law. We could stop them from hurting each other or our coworkers. But when it comes to just gut decisions of their lives, they had the ability. A lot of them had IQs that were high enough that allowed them to make plans and to get jobs and all this. But some employees look down on them, and they would say, well, you don't get to make that decision for yourself. That's the condescending, arrogant attitude of the Progressive Party, is that they look at someone and they say, most people don't know how to make good judgments about how to live their life, and the government should be there to help them make those decisions, how to educate their children, how to vaccinate their children, all these different things. And it's very condescending and it's very arrogant, and it denies people the dignity to assume their own risk. And that's what the tyranny of 2020 was about, is that we were denying people the ability to assume their own risk. If you wanted to, you could stay at home. And even if we didn't shut down any government buildings, any businesses, if everything economically had run as it is today during 2020, a person could have said, I'm not assuming that risk for myself. I'm quitting my job. I'm going to find some way to finance myself while I'm at home. I'm going to live off of my savings, or I'm going to give up my house and I'm going to find some sort of alternative dwelling. I'm going to live in my car so that I don't catch COVID. But none of those things were an option for them because they were too uncomfortable. They wanted it all. They wanted everyone to suffer with them. So they took away other people's power to assume risk and make decisions for themselves. I'm someone that knows that every single day you can die. I'm a terrible driver. I take my life into my hands every single time I go anywhere. It's a huge risk. I don't trust myself. But perhaps that's something about working in 911, is that I would just see people die every day all the time for no reason. Sometimes prematurely, sometimes when it was time. But they were afraid of dying. Just want to make sure I'm using the correct microphone here. Let me know if my microphone's it just did the thing where it switched off again. They were afraid of dying. And so death was something to be feared for everyone. And death was something ugly to be covered up. You are indeed not using my correct microphone. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Sometimes like I hear little clicks and pops in this thing as I'm using it. And it'll just randomly say, oh, your mic's disconnected. They were afraid of dying, and so they wanted to cover up death. And then when death was exposed to them, because lots of people were dying from COVID, they couldn't face death, and they were afraid of death. Well, death is with us all the time. People are dying all the time. Ask a cop, ask a paramedic, ask a firefighter. We see death every day, and so it's not unusual for us. But all these regular people were suddenly encountering the truth of death, and it made them very fearful. And they said, we have to fight death, even though it's inevitable for us all. And we're going to change the rules about how everyone gets to live because we're afraid to die. I mean, Kirk Cousins said it best. He refused to get the shot. And he said, if I live, I live. And if I die, I die, something to those effects, because he understood that his life was really out of his hands anyway. So he was never afraid to die. So I commended Kirk Cousins for that. Sorry about my microphone problems. I've got to continue with the memes or we'll never get there, guys. I'm so busy pontificating about COVID and all that shit that happened. I don't think anybody really cares what I think. The stages of the struggle Look at this. They've got a beautiful board they're eating a sandwich on with Dijon mustard. We used to think that Dijon mustard was a mark of a rich person. We used to have two limousines meet in the middle of nowhere, and windows would roll down. They'd say, "Pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon?" That was Dijon mustard, people. Stone ground Dijon mustard. This guy's got Dijon. He's got two pillowy pieces of bread. That's got the little flour on it, the dust of the flour. Looks like beautiful cold cuts, cheese, butter, bacon, which apparently he didn't cook. And he says, the stages of the struggle. This is not a struggle. This is a delicious lunch. He's even got red onion on there. If you're chopping up an onion, this is a lunch. You ever took a nap for dinner? You don't even know about the struggle. Relocation of a polar bear in Canada, September of 1970. What was the charge? A succulent Chinese seal? Sorry for trauma dumping on you. Bro, I literally love and care for you. It's an honor with you to learn about the complex and subtle ways that life has shaped you. Hope that you're a trusted friend and confident the rest of your days. Guys, if someone says this to you, that is a bot. Nobody actually cares about you like that. Have you heard that the bird is the word? No, Kyle died last night. Kyle's dead, everybody. Publisher. So it's got vampires. Bram Stoker. Yes. And sex? Yes. A lunatic asylum? Yes. I need something more. Bram Stoker scratching his head. A cowboy? Fucking sold. Print that Dracula. And everyone's like, the only way to kill Dracula is a stake through his heart. But in modern times, I think we should at least try hitting him with a very fast car. I am constantly advocating law enforcement officers, correctional officers, to remember that when dealing with a felon who's very dangerous because he's in flight, because he's armed and cooking in the neighborhood, hit that mother with your Crown Vic or your Tahoe or whatever. Run him down. That has the same energy as that Buffy episode where the big bad can't be hurt by any weapon forged. And she's like, it's been 500 years. Are you sure? And then she annihilates it with a fucking M136 rocket launcher. I think I saw that. I remember it was like some medieval guy who's like, no weapon forged can destroy me. And he's just like thinking of knives and like morning stars and maces and spears. It's just like, do you know about rocket launchers? It's so important now more than ever to remember that there's a cowboy with a big knife in Dracula because Dracula takes place in cowboy times. It is hard to remember, but I always kind of use the Civil War as a benchmark for whenever I read a period piece. Like, is it is this during the Civil War? Or is it right before or right after? Dracula meets cowboys. Something very funny about Dracula is that Jonathan describes his dinners at the castle as delicious and assumes that unseen servants are cooking them. He is later horrified to discover that there are no servants, which means that Dracula himself was thanklessly cooking his succulent meals. God forbid that Dracula did all the work. Good evening. Oh, it's me. It's Count Dracula. No, I know. There's just a lot going on right now. I don't really need this right now. Cigarettes are back, baby. Due to public health concerns, some kind of vape or whatever it is some place will no longer carry vapes. Thanks for your understanding. We've brought back cigarettes, though. Marlboro's undefeated. Guys, just remember one slurp of pho per trick-or-treater. Just one slurp. HR says I'm no longer allowed to answer the phone. For fuck's sake, what now? Gosh, I cannot tell you the amount of times that has happened where the phone rings and it's just like, what do you want now? People so needy. So needy. You know, a woman would probably find a way to find a problem with this. Is it because the cans are on their side? Is it because the meat's on the top? Traditionally put the meat on the bottom and the cans on the top. Another reason I wanted my sister gone. Her response to this would be in all capital letters, Jonathan, That is it true all Asians look alike? I'm your neighbor. We need to start referring to Browns quarterbacks like we do presidents. Since 1999, when they relaunched, whatever. Dylan Gabriel is the 41st quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. Also, this is a good Facebook policy. I do not add nobody from work unless I've seen you breaking company policy before. That was something I've had to learn a very hard lesson over the years. A lot of times people only want to be your Facebook friend because they want to find something out about you that they can use to rat on you about. Don't become Facebook friends easily. You should actually only be Facebook friends with people that you're really, 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 really friends with in real life. And no offense to Melanie, it's just I haven't met you. You made zero effort, Melanie. Just kidding. My buddy lost his job to AI. It was his job to chug thousands of gallons of water at a data center. Poor guy. What is he supposed to do now? That was his talent. That's all he had. Cops are always like, can you tell me why you were going 90 to 55? And you have to explain to them that literally gets you there faster. Just goes to show you the guys who fail at math end up as cops. Literally had this the other night where, so you got a long stretch of interstate, right? It's 30 miles. You got a vehicle speeding southbound. It's speeding, so it's doing like 80 or 90 or 100 miles an hour. It's southbound. So you tell everyone about it because that's your job. You can't just, gatekeep that shit and decide that, hey, no one's going to be able to catch up to this guy, so I'm not even going to bother to tell anyone. You have to tell everyone for some reason. And then the cop way up north says, you can assign this call to me. I'm going to go catch up with him. I'm like, dude, you're 30 miles away from him and he's traveling 100 miles an hour away from you. You're going to have to travel like 700 miles an hour to catch up to him while he's still within our jurisdiction. I wasn't giving the call to you. I say any unit in position, but realistically, that's for the units in position, not for you. If you're not in position, do the geometry, do the geography, do the math, and you'll realize that call's not for you. But sometimes they just get on the radio to sound like they're helping. I'm helping. I'll go to this. It's just like, no, you're not, dude. Do you have a rocket on the back of your car? Because he's doing 100 miles an hour. He's 30 miles away from you, and he's driving away from you. You cannot catch up to him. And then they get all kind of salty, like, oh, I thought you said he was coming northbound. I'm like, no. Why did you get the impression he was going northbound by me saying southbound? It's not confusing. It's not confusing. Did I just out the fact that this was a state trooper whose hat was probably on too tight, cutting off blood circulation to the top of his brain? Anyway, at 35, you should have twice your salary, according to retirement experts. Turns pocket inside out. 2 moths fly out. Oh no, my moths. One time, I was escorting an inmate from jail to court, and it didn't go well. There was almost a fight. The officer who was going with me, he was really bad at his job. He was a big-time dummy, big-time dumb. Not good at his job, didn't understand, threat analysis. Just he liked being friendly to the inmates so that he did not pick a fight with them. He wanted to be liked by them, which is a fool's game. Like they don't like you, and if you try to be liked, they don't respect you. But this guy was a part-time correctional officer, transporter guy with me, and he told me that he had, in a previous walk of life, he had been a retirement planner. Well, you must not have been a very good one because you don't do that job anymore, ostensibly because you're retired, but you're working with me. So you weren't a good retirement planner. Maybe that job's hard, but maybe broader implication, you're just not that smart. Maybe don't go around telling people you used to be a retirement planner when you're still working your retirement age. The lack of self-awareness. Asked my coworker what's wrong, and he said, I'm tired of faking that I like you guys. And honestly, that's my mood. It can be difficult to carry on. Addicted to Googling sandwich near me at the office every single day just in case a new one opens up. I've got to hurry. Drew's expecting me. To answer your questions on another post, this is my mom's overnight egg sugar water soup in a frying pan. Original post was deleted. Does that look good to you guys? Breaking, the chicken milk has hit the shelves in Canada. Why would you call it that? Eggnog. I'm going to try very hard to get into eggnog this year. I'm going to add amaretto to it. That's right. I think the reason I never liked eggnog is because I never had it boozy. Rule number 1 of wound care, ignore it. Ignore it. Centers for Disease Control says do not. Disease for Center Control says rule number 2 of wound care, go swimming in a pond or especially a public pool. Centers for Disease Control says, who the fuck are you? They don't like having competition. Government never does. The government never does. They don't like that competition. Cops don't like competition either. When you enforce the law and you do it just because it's fun, they don't like that. I like a loan. My banker says, okay, you need a good credit score. And I say, okay, well, what is my credit score? And the banker says, are you sure you want to know? Because if we look at it, it will get worse. Well, why? Banker pulls me in close by my necktie. Because we fucking hate you. Anyone else do portable pescetti? Pescetti? Boy, I just really outed myself as a child there. Roll it up in a tortilla. Take it on the go. I would just eat it out of like a Ziploc bag. That's me. I wish America could go back to the 50s when things were simpler. Dad has a loving family. The son says I'm going to own my own house just like Dad someday. The wife wearing a sundress. I will never need to have a job. The daughter says, I like cooking with Mom. Grandpa, I killed 50 men. Yes, he did. Probably in World War I for him. The working class to the government, please help us. Republicans, no. Democrats, no. But, you could heart your pride flag and hashtag BLM. This is right. Republicans do the same thing just without all the virtue signaling, so it actually makes them slightly better. Please limit your water intake and only drink what you need. Data centers need their water more than you to make AI slap videos. If you're thirsty, they're thirsty. And that guy whose job it was to drink all the water. Don't forget about him. Friendly reminder that having a different opinion about a movie than you is a direct attack on you as a person, and you should take it very personally. Why are there so many people that do this? I guess because they're trying to show a part of themselves with you, share a part of themselves, like because they really, really, really like this movie and it means something to them. It speaks to them personally, and so when you reject it, you reject a part of them. On the other hand, grow up. Realize that something that you really like is not going to necessarily have the same appeal to another person. You're a unique individual, and you should take some joy in the fact that you're an individual and the fact that something that you really love cannot be fully understood or loved by someone else. That's where I come in. This is why you don't tell your friends and your parents that you listen to the I Stand Correct podcast with Jonathan, because if they listen to it, it would actually bring you some degree of shame, I'm sure. Give an account number to a customer service rep over the phone. This would be like, how, Drew, when we do phonetics, we use words, A is in Adam, B is in boy. Yeah, 3 is in if there were 3 girls, 6 is in 64, and 0 is if there wasn't any of something. I'm going to try that. Oh, back to the political stuff. This one should have been near the top. Transgender butcher charged with sexual assault and abduction of an 11-year-old girl. Andrew George Miller, who is also known locally as Amy, appeared via video link. And then the left, who loves that Charlie Kirk is dead and that cheered that people were dying of COVID, says they even dead named her. Yep. How could you, with a straight face, use the phrase dead named when we're talking about someone who sexually assaulted and abducted an 11-year-old girl? Huh? Yeah, dead naming is definitely the real crime here. Why are you saying as a man that you are tired? Men used to die in war, now they are tired. Why are you questioning me as a woman? Women used to get slapped for talking too much. What? Oh boy, I already played that one. Insurance does not cover what I am about to do, guys. I was today years old when I realized that the caps on medicine bottles are actually serving sizes. I use this method with Adderall, and I'm currently cutting my grass with scissors. Wind chimes, but it's hot dogs. The soothing sound of wind meat. By the way, Schmuck's here at Ivory Gazelle. Just a real cute picture there. Good smile. Seems like someone you should follow, maybe. Schmuck's. Like it or not, Trump is the blackest president in U.S. history. I guess orange really is the new black. For those of you offended, just remember it was once said that Bill Clinton was the first black president. Hush, baby. Let me spoil you tonight. I'm pretty sure that cheese still has its wrapping on. Raw egg, 2 hot dogs, and a pickle. What is that going to turn into? I mean, as far as keto goes, it's a very good choice. Indians, not feather, that don't want to live around Indians are offended that you don't want to live around Indians. That's the state of things here. They get offended that you're offended by them, but they're offended. Yeah, well, the country's full of trash, so a big surprise. What's funny is that, like, growing up in the house that I did, our house was full of trash. My mom was mentally ill and also just a bad mother on top of it. So both of those things were like in competition for the top reason why my life was so fucking horrible as a child. Our house was full of trash. I wouldn't say she was a hoarder. She wasn't keeping things she needed. It was literally full of garbage. Like, literally walk around with a trash bag and just fill it up. That's what needed to be done in the house. And she lived that way, and we call her mentally ill and we call her a bad person. But Indians live that way in India. Their whole country is just fucking full of trash, and it's fine. It's their cultural values. We can't judge them. But if they lived in a house here, CPS would be called on them. Not to brag, but I'm halfway done filling my basement with gasoline. We literally had someone blow up their house that way. It's nothing now. It's just an empty plot because the whole house was blown up. How I feel being the only one awake at night in the whole house. This is me, creeping around, acting like a Dracula. Did parents in the 70s, 80s, and 90s really allow their kids to roam freely, or is it just a portrayal seen in movies? Oh, it was real. An underreported reason we are having fewer kids is that we are now expected to watch them 24/7. At least in the summer, my mom got 10 plus hours a day free for me while I crawled around in the ditches. Absolutely true. I was in a culvert. I was at the playground. I was in the woods. She didn't have to worry about me. All those people right now who give cell phones to their kids saying, well, it is good for safety. You know, I worry about them. You know, what if they, do you not remember being a child and not having a phone and not having one fucking occasion in which you needed to speak to your parents? Am I the only one? I didn't have a phone. I didn't have a set time to come home. Nothing happened to me. Let go of the wheel when it comes to your kids. It's going to be fine. Don't be a worrier. I'm proof. You know, I don't know that I'm fine, I guess, but I'm alive. You know, that you don't really need to worry. I get why people eventually get into bird watching. A beautiful little hummingbird would never run up the middle 3 straight times and then punt. Boy, that game against Carolina was rough. Hard to watch. Birds don't have to worry about establishing the run, though. I didn't get to watch the game versus the Redskins, although finding out the final score was 22-44 does make me happy, as I hate that team. Cigarettes are basically a mod that makes the game of life better. I'm going to install about 15 of those puppies today. Let's take a moment to remember all the actors who have portrayed Darth Vader. Hayden Christensen, of course, in the prequels. Bob Anderson on the set, inside the suit. James Earl Jones, who did the voice. David Prowse, he was also inside the suit. Sebastian Shaw played him in the Empire Strikes Back. And then, of course, Michael J. Fox. Sorry, I was getting a phone call there. And then last meme of the day. Imagine if Al-Qaeda did their thing with the planes 2 months earlier. The 7-Eleven PR team woke up to a complete and utter nightmare. Americans will always remember 7-Eleven attacks. They would have to change the name of the company. Anyway, I should wrap up so that Drew and I can record. I hope you enjoyed all those memes and my constant, pontificating. I'm not a good driver either, and I just got the new car, white knuckling it the whole time I'm behind the wheel. Fighting death with 1 foot in the grave. No need to apologize. Your microphone has a mind of its own. I don't know why it does that. Couldn't tell you. I'm afraid of dying, but only because I worry about my children. Well, you are, unless you intend for your children to die before you, Foxy, this is something that you need to stop fearing and realize. I don't mean actualize or manifest, but I mean, you're going to be dead and they're going to be living without you at some point. You wouldn't want it the other way around, would you? You want to bury your own children? Foxy, typical bad take. I'm afraid of dying, but only in a way that my life insurance won't pay out. On the plus side, I wouldn't have to do this job anymore. Dracula is a decent read, and the Bram Stoker's 1990 movie. I've never seen it. I probably should. John, you need to do a live as Drac. I don't like appropriating Transylvanian culture. Halloween episode of Comms? Yeah, we're going to be doing one on the 30th. It's going to be spooky. Love your Dracula voice, John. Thank you. I thought it was good. I thought it was like pretty much spot on. John telling me the Facebook Friends rules reminded me of the opening of the song Popular by Not a Surf, and haven't heard it. Another clue to John's whereabouts, there's an interstate that goes south. You're dialing it in. There's one that goes east and west, too, just so you know. Near my hometown is Route 666. It's a terrible route that routinely slides into the river adjacent to it, so it's often closed. Many people told the detour inside, detour south 666. John lives in San Diego. I think John actually lives in Ohio because the state troopers there have their hats screwed on too tight. I think it's universal. John, regarding the retirement of planner, those who can do, and those who can't teach. Makes sense. Just broke my phone stylus pen thing. Fucking awesome. You've always got something bad happening to you during the show. I can't imagine what the rest of your week is like if during the 1 hour that I'm on the air Monday morning, something bad has happened to you. Amy, my ass. Yeah. God forbid we dead name them rather than calling them out as the degenerate murderers that they are. Jonathan, this was more of a change in society of fucking creeps that takes advantage of the young. That seems like that trans butcher. Nice to see you, Abby. I didn't notice that you were in the chats until now. That's it for me. I'm going to be recording the show. We will not be live on Thursday because it will be a recorded show. We're going to be talking about Ellen Greenberg. That's right. Andrea Uplate's not the only one that can have a terrible take on about the suspicious suicidal death of Ellen Greenberg. Drew will be there to give his worst takes as well. So if you just can't wait to hear the worst possible theory that you could possibly hear about it, Thursday night's the night for that. Until then, guys, thank you for watching the show. I appreciate you guys. We're going to have a good time on Thursday night. And thanks always for watching. Take care, everybody. Have a good week. Have a good Monday.